The movie begins with a news program showing on the screen. Various sports superstars are first introduced. One of those superstars is Randy Daytona, a young boy of 12 the crowd is cheering for as he prepares for the biggest match in his life. He is praised as the best table tennis player in America and the rest of the world for winning the finals of the 1988 Summer Olympics. Randy shows off his skills with his lucky paddle called Def Leppard that has won him over 200 amateur matches. Standing by his side is his father, Sergeant Pete Daytona, a former U.S. Marines who also acts as his coach. Back to reality with all the eyes of all of America, the entire world, and every other TV screen watching Randy, it was finally time for the match. He enters the arena amidst cheers with his lucky paddle but missing his father, Sergeant Pete. He finds his father walking towards him shortly after and then notices a group of shady-looking men paying attention to Pete. It dawns on Randy that his father has placed a bet on his match with hopes of paying his gambling debts, despite his promise to him. Randy's opponent for the match, Karl Wolfstag, a fierce middle-aged competitor from German Democratic, is then introduced. He walks into the court amidst intense cheers from his German fans. After an even more intense stare-down between him and Randy and spitting on the 12-year-old's offer for a professional handshake, the match starts. A fast-paced exchange begins between the two opponents and Sergeant Pete carefully backs away from the match. Randy notices his father now back with the shady-looking men in the middle of the exchange. He cracks under pressure and ends up losing the match. The shady-looking men are revealed to be the Mafia and they abduct Pete after the failed match and lost bet. Randy's father pleads for an extension on his debts but his pleas fall on deaf ears and he loses his life. 19 years later, Randy, who has been haunted by the humiliating loss and his father's death, now works at a casino in Reno, Nevada. He now works as a sideshow act, performing ping-pong tricks to pay the bills. After a stunt that left one of his audience members suffering a heart attack, Randy's boss, Rick the Birdmaster, fires him. Still reeling from the shock of losing his job, Randy receives a second shot at redemption in the form of Ernie Rodriguez, an FBI agent who walks into his dressing room. He tempts Randy with an offer to take part in a top-secret mission which he accepts without much of a choice. Randy is taken to an FBI base where he is briefed on the details of the secret mission. He finds out that the target of the operation is Mr. Pong, the man who led the criminal organization that had his father killed. With not much information about the mystery mafia boss other than the fact that he is a ping-pong fanatic, Randy is expected to infiltrate a high-stakes tournament to find out details of Mr. Feng's illegal dealings. Afraid of going back into the competitive side of ping-pong, Randy refused to assist the FBI and stormed out of the room. The conflicted Randy visited his father's grave right after to reflect on things but was interrupted by a waterslide that was built over the cemetery. He subsequently calls Rodriguez on a payphone to let him know he would become his ping-pong playing undercover agent. Randy heads home to dig up his lucky paddle, the Def Leppard, and then is picked up by Rodriguez. He is taken to an amateur ping-pong match to play where he meets his first opponent in 19 years, the Hammer, a four-time Western Conference champion. The match ends in utter defeat and dawns on both Randy and Rodriguez that he needs to polish his rusty skills after not playing for that many years. With only 2 weeks left before Feng's tournament takes place, Randy is taken to the world's greatest ping-pong instructor to brush up his skills. He meets the instructor, Mr. Wong, who owns a takeout restaurant, is blind, and does not want to train an outsider like Randy. Wong revealed that Feng was his pupil, his most gifted one, but he had expensive tastes which led him into shady dealings. Wong kicked him out of his school and Feng then joined the triad, taking Wong's brother, Leping, with him. Feng killed Leping when he decided to leave the life of crime, leaving Leping's daughter fatherless and Wong out for revenge. After promising to take down Feng, Wong decides to train Randy. Randy arrives at Wong's school to begin his training and there he meets the blind instructor's niece, Maggie Wong Mei Fei, Leping's daughter. A scuffle ensues after some of the students notice Randy. It is quickly quelled by Maggie but Wong is then reminded that it is forbidden for him to teach a round eye like Randy. Randy's training soon begins and his first lesson is to practice with a wooden spoon instead of a paddle. He continues to go through brutal lessons from Wong and also unsuccessfully tries to get closer to Maggie. Randy and Rodriguez arrive at the school to find it in a total mess. It turned out that the elders of Chinatown had shut down Wong's school because of teaching Randy, who they see as an outsider. The only way out for Wong and his school is for Randy to meet the elders and face their champion, the dragon. Randy is taken to the lair of the dragon to face the elders and their champ. Before he enters, Maggie gives him a paddle that belonged to her father. Randy, who is accompanied by Wong, finally meets Chinatown's dragon, who turns out to be a little girl. The match begins with huge stakes on the line. If Randy loses, Wong and his descendants would be banished from Chinatown. Surprisingly, Randy easily wins the match, leaving the dragon in tears. With this win, Randy finally gets an invitation to Feng's tournament and his undercover mission truly begins. The invitation, which came in the form of a golden paddle, gave them the location of the tournament. Outfitted with only a homing device to call for backup, Randy and Rodriguez were finally ready for the mission. The pair of them and Master Wong soon took off to bring Pong and his criminal organization down, but not before Randy kisses Maggie goodbye with a promise to come back safely. The team arrives on the secluded island where the tournament would take place. The high-stakes competition begins with a banquet, and the mysterious Mr. Pong is finally seen for the first time. After a hearty speech about ping pong, Pong begins to introduce notable figures participating in the tournament. After completely ignoring Randy and his team and his speech, Pong approaches his former master Wong. A heated discussion ensues, and Pong finally acknowledges Randy's presence, showing that he knew of Randy and his accomplishments. Randy heads to his room alone after the banquet to rest, but there he meets Feng's subordinate, who forcefully makes him spend the night with a male sex slave named Gary. The tournament began the next day, and Randy kicked off the first match with his opponent being Freddy Fingers Wilson. The match begins with Freddy Fingers taking the lead briefly, but after an exciting fast-paced exchange of balls from the duo, Randy emerges victorious. In the wake of his victory, Freddy is killed by a dart from the blowgun of Feng's subordinate. It then dawns on Randy and the rest of the gang that losing a match would result in sudden death. Randy rushes back to his room and tries to flee from the tournament in a panic. He is interrupted by Pong, who comes knocking at his door. The erratic crime boss comes up with a proposition for Randy and takes him on a walk. Pong reveals to Randy that his real security wasn't the guards around him, but the fact that the whole island was wired to blow up. Pong takes Randy through a hidden entrance and gives him a full tour of his criminal empire. Pong showed off his new guns, which can get past metal detectors, and hinted that business was booming. Next, Pong shows him his custom-made private ping-pong table. He brags about the danger of the custom-made table, revealing that vests that could send a lethal amount of electricity into the human body were needed to play at the table. Pong then offers Randy a job as his personal assistant, hanger-on, because he thinks it would break Wong's heart if Pong, his old pupil, lured his new protege into the dark side. Pong shows Randy a panda he has no idea if it is still alive or not, then sends him off to prepare for his next match. While watching other opponents squaring off, Randy tries to explain how to get into the hidden passage to Rodriguez. The FBI agent leaves to try and get into Feng's hidden base of operations. He has to plant a beacon that would signal other agents of the location. To Randy's despair, the next match comes up right after Rodriguez leaves. Fortunately, he wins against his opponent, Yukito Nagasaki. As Rodriguez infiltrates Feng's hidden base of operations to plant the beacon, more matches continue to blaze through, with Randy winning all his matchups. Rodriguez gets back to the rest of the gang when it is announced that Randy has gotten to the finals, along with Carl Wolfstag, who would play against him. Carl gives Randy a stare down and tells him that he is close to defeat. While waiting for the final match to begin, Randy, who is sitting with Rodriguez and Master Wong, is visibly worried about the impending match and possible death. He asks Rodriguez where the FBI backup was, but the FBI agent pacifies him by telling Randy that there is a plan B. He tells Randy to meet him in the toilet in the next 2 minutes and leaves the table. When Rodriguez gets to the John, he knocks out the attendant waiting there. Randy, however, who was just on his way to meet Rodriguez, was trapped in another stare down with Carl. Carl tells him that despite the horrible things he has said about Randy, he does not mean them and that he thinks Randy is the greatest player he has ever seen other than himself. He also tells Randy that he is sorry his father is not here to watch him and that Sergeant Pete would have been proud of his son. It turns out to be a big joke on Randy when he tells him that his father would be so proud he would bet on him again. Carl does this while ripping out Pete's army dog tag from Randy's neck and spitting on it. Randy picks up his father's dog tag and walks to Master Wong's side. He tells him that he has decided that they are staying and not running away anymore. He expresses that he has to play Carl, win or lose, and that he can't keep running from the German. Wong then tells him that he is proud of him, and Randy leaves to go tell Rodriguez of his decision to stay and play to the end. When he gets to the toilet when he's supposed to meet the FBI agent, Rodriguez jumps out, surprising Randy and breaking his arm with a door. While carrying Randy out of the toilet with Master Wong, Rodriguez apologetically told him that he didn't know that Randy had changed his mind about the situation. Wong tells them that they should quiet down and that there was nothing they could do about Rodriguez breaking Randy's arm. After Randy expressed his hatred for the pair, they report to Pong about the supposed accident. Pong expresses a weird remorse about the situation and tells them that he has no choice but to disqualify Randy, declaring Carl as the winner. After Carl's quick celebration, which was interrupted, Pong tells Randy that he was serious about his previous offer and gave him his email. It was all still calm when Pong suddenly said he was disappointed and threw the three men through a door. The mob boss then revealed that he knew who Agent Rodriguez really was and asks them if they were still waiting for backup while giving Rodriguez back the beacon he planted. Pong then declared that the competition would go on as planned and wished Randy good luck. The final death match between Randy and Carl is about to begin, and Randy's arm is still broken in a sling. Before they start, Randy, in a state of nervousness, briefly hallucinates and throws down his paddle. Before he can pick up his paddle, Carl jumps up to step on the paddle to spite Randy. With the paddle now broken, Randy calls for a timeout and heads to Master Wong to lament about the broken lucky paddle which belonged to Wong's brother, Leping. He is visibly shaken, but Wong calms him down by telling him the game is not in the paddle but in him. He tells Randy he must play and gives him another paddle, saying it belonged to the greatest player he had ever known. It turned out to be the Death Leopard, his old lucky paddle. Randy takes the pad and thanks Wong, but before he heads back to the waiting game, he takes out a radio and begins playing rock and roll music. Using his newfound courage and questionable dance skills, he heads to the table to begin his match. Before he could make his first serve, however, Pong shoots the radio and informs everyone that there was going to be a slight change in the game. He brings out a bound Maggie and reveals that she would be taking Carl's place in the game. Carl gets into an outrage but is killed by a blow dart, and Randy begs for advice from Wong. With nothing from Wong, Randy faces Maggie in what would be a game to the death. At the start of the game, Maggie refused to play back and tells Randy she is willing to give her life for him. Randy gives Maggie a point instead and she tries to stop him. Randy continues to try to give Maggie the points in the game despite her trying to stop him. He tells her he loves her. Pong stops the game, calling it boring and ordering both Randy and Maggie's death. Before Feng's subordinate could kill them, they quickly brought her down with a shocking tag team effort. Using that opportunity, Rodriguez seizes a gun from one of Feng's men and starts shooting into the crowd. With the distraction, the whole gang could now escape, and Rodriguez then revealed the FBI backup was still on the way because he had brought an additional beacon. The FBI soon entered the fray with their guns blazing, but Randy breaks away from the escaping group to do something else. He frees the sex slaves captive and escapes with them, but encounters Pong in the process. Randy then challenges Pong to a match to find out Master Wong's best pupil, and Pong agrees. They use Feng's custom-made death table to play their match, and the game soon starts with everyone watching and their lives at stake. During their showdown, Feng's self-destruct sequence was accidentally triggered and panic ensued. Randy and Pong continue their match while the rest of the gang tries to escape. The showdown between the men soon becomes so intense that it leaves the ping pong table to continue all through the island, on any surface. With 2 minutes left for the bombs to go on and Randy in danger, he pulls off the impossible and defeats Pong. He then rejoins the rest of the team and is able to escape from the island before the bombs go off.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more movie recaps.